I'm torn when it comes to the suicide of Rachel Foster. On the one hand, it has a strong sense of atmosphere and an intriguing tale, with a small but well-acted cast. On the other, there's a lot of slowly walking around from waiting for things to happen, a twist that can be seen a mile off, and an all too brief and uneventful runtime. Players Nicole, who, as per her mother's dying wish, has returned to the family hotel in order to assess the quality of it and to sell it. Nicole and her mother left about 10 years prior, after it was discovered that her father was having an affair with one of her classmates, a girl named Rachel, who eventually committed suicide. Her mother passed many years before, but recently her father passed, and her lawyer passed on a letter from her mother, which she instructed her to return to the hotel in order to assess it and sell it, and put this dark part of their past behind them. Set in a snowy, mountainous region, as she arrives at the hotel, of course, a storm hits, and she ends up stuck there, rather than a quick pop in and pop out visit. She isn't pleased about this, having not really wanted to come back to the hotel in the first place, but luckily she ends up with a helpful voice, I should say, in a lad named Irving on the phone. With his help, Nicole is able to find her way around the hotel that she's long forgotten, and also survive the horrible, harsh winter. It's these two characters that we spend the entirety of the suicide of Rachel Foster with, playing as Nicole and talking to Irving. Initially, Nicole comes across to Irving incredibly harsh, in a way that I didn't really enjoy. I didn't see the point of her being quite so mean to him. He was only trying to help her survive and figure out what to do. As one of the FEMA agents there, he was familiar with the area. And the way she spoke to him and the way she came across, it was unnecessarily mean, even given the circumstances. And Irving didn't come across much better either, to be honest. Not mean-wise, he would just come across as a bit of a idiot, quite frankly. He'd constantly stumble over his words, and he'd not understand what she was saying when it was clear as day what she meant. But after the first day, I ended up quite enjoying their little interactions. They started to get along a bit better, and even if they were still giving each other needless aggression, they were at least good about it and did it in sort of a good-natured way, which is a good thing, because the entirety of about the 3-hour runtime of this is Irving and Nicole talking over the modern technology, that, as they call it, of the cell phone.
You kidding?
In terms of gameplay, it literally is walking from one room to another while talking to Irving, picking up an item or flicking a switch, and then walking back to the room you just come from. The story is broken up into days, with each day running between 5 and 20 minutes a piece. Sometimes they'll be just purely exposition based, other times you'll be exploring the hotel. There's not much to the exploration, however, though, which I found really disappointing. There's not much to explore in the hotel, unfortunately, though, which is a shame, because it's really packed with a lot of detail, and there's a lot of areas that don't even get used for the story, which is a shame, because, as I said, there's a lot to look at and explore, just nothing to find when you get there. There's an excellent atmosphere as well in terms of the horror. Lots of creepy noises, lots of footsteps and voices, and sliding down handrails and banging on doors and stuff like that. It's really well done. Unfortunately, it never really amounts to anything. I'll try to keep spoiler free here, but despite all of the ghostly appearances and apparitions and voices and goings on, there's nothing that really pays any of that off in a meaningful or enjoyable way. It almost feels as if the supernatural stuff there is there as a red herring, despite how heavily it's laid on. As I said, the gameplay is pretty basic. You just walk back from room to room, finding objects or flicking a switch or opening a door somewhere. There's no real puzzle element. In fact, sometimes it can be a bit obtuse as to where to go. Nicole has got a map that she can look at, which will have the objective on there as well. Sometimes it's not even really clear. It's just her inane ramblings, which again adds to the story, but doesn't really help when you've got no idea where you're supposed to be going. I did spend about an hour or so walking around the hotel as well on one of the days, just to see what I could find, if there was any incidental story stuff. And there's little notes and bits and pieces dotted around, but there's really not much point to finding any of it. It doesn't affect the story in any way. It doesn't affect the endings in any way.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It was time wasted, quite frankly. She doesn't move very fast either, our Nicole. She walks at a snail's pace and jogs at about a snail's pace that's on a greased floor. It takes far too long to walk around, again, especially considering there's nothing to find or nothing to see. The atmosphere soon starts to get repetitive with the same sort of noises and the same effects popping up. There's a phone on the second floor. Every time you run past it, it makes the same ding noise, which initially was a bit like, "Whoa, what was that?" And then the 10th time I heard it, I was like, "There's the phone again." There's zero replay value as well. I actually end up replaying most of the game because I hit a critical bug at the end, which forced me to restart the whole thing. So the second time round, not only was the same faults and same tedious progression and movement in play, but also knew what was going to happen. So I spent a lot of time just waiting around for Nicole and Irvin to finish talking before I could progress. There's no way to skip the dialogue. There's no way to move any faster, which is a bit disappointing. As I said, there's not much to find. So there's not even things you could look and try and find again that you might have missed. There are dialogue choices pop up intermittently between Irving and Nicole, but again, these don't have the impact that they appear to initially have. Overall, they're just a different flavour of text, but to get to the same result. Overall, I came away quite disappointed with the suicide of Rachel Foster. As I said, the atmosphere and the horror tricks, initially at least, are excellent. The tale was quite gripping and quite engaging, and there's a real sense of exploration and wonder, which then soon dissipates as soon as you start to explore and to wonder what might be out there. It's a lot of tedious back and forth. Nicole and Irvin's interplay is quite entertaining, but at the same time it can come across a bit stilted and a bit awkward. I was really hoping for something akin the quality of Gone Home, which I really enjoyed, but this title just did not live up to that high standard, unfortunately. A shame then, but you can't win them all. Please do pop over to the xboxtavern.com to check out the final score and conclusion. I've been Jamie. Thank you very much.